Juanita, great to see you again. How are you today?
Hi, Mark. Very well. How are you? How is everyone?
I hope all the people watching are having a fabulous day as well. Here we are in lockdown Queensland, but
We are
we're
coming
still
from you from lockdown in suburban Brisbane today.
and yes, we're both locked down today. But anyway, it's great. I got to go up north in Queensland last week, Juanita, and some people told me they'd been watching a number of our shows that we've
Very
recorded,
cool.
and they were very, very impressed, especially with you.
Oh, wonderful. That's great to hear. We do have an audience. That's very exciting.
Absolutely. No, they like. In fact, they started repeating some of the things that I've obviously been saying to you, and I said, "How did you know that? That's what I think about these things." And they said, we've been watching you."
Fantastic. That's great. Awesome.
No, that's great. So today's issue is thought we'd just go back and talk about what are the primary issues that face succession planning. And as you'll see, I've actually got a whole pile of statistics here from a lot of the quiz funnels. Oh, I've gone dark now, haven't I? So
yeah, you've gone dark. Yep.
so
Clouds are going over the entire block.
Absolutely. So I've got a lot of statistics from the quiz funnels that we run, so that we know by surveying people what it is that they see as the greatest issues. And you came up with some yourself, and let me guess what the first one's going to be.
What do you reckon it's going to be?
Communication. 2 minutes.
C word. Communication, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the obvious place to start. It's the initial impediment to people getting on with their succession planning and estate planning, and it's just that difficulty often between the generations in particular, and between spouses. People just struggling to communicate what their wishes are, and then even if they know what their wishes are, struggling to communicate that anyway because of relationships between different family members.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it would be fair to say, and all the clients that I deal with, 100% of the clients that I deal with, I'm sure, certainly over the last 12 months, 2 years, the communication void between people, between mum and dad themselves, but certainly between mum and dad and the next generation, what causes the greatest issues. And in fact, that communication void leads to conflict in many, many cases. And I always used to think that conflict came along, because our process for all succession solutions is very much about making sure that after mum and dad have gone, the kids, and I use this all the time, the kids still get together at Christmas as mates, and there's, you eliminate or reduce the propensity for contested wills and all those sorts of things, thinking that the conflict came after mum and dad passed away. But what I learn is there's just so much conflict out there already that kids are having with their parents, vice versa, sometimes between mum and dad themselves, sometimes between the siblings, and many times, and I'm finding more often, in fact, I'm going to do just a little short video myself on this, is daughters-in-laws and sons-in-law conflict between them and the next generation, and like mum and dad and the daughter-in-law, or mum and dad and the son-in-law, and so on. And that lack of communication, the lack of confidence, and that's the other C word, is the confidence. A lot of times it's the son or daughter-in-law feel very what's the word, fragile. You'll come up with a better word than I will, Juanita, but
Yep. Unsure of their future, perhaps, but also on the flip, you get some that are way too have way too many expectations than they may reasonably have been anticipated to have by mum and dad.
That's the touchy one to bring up, but yes, I have recently come across children-in-law. Whether it's boys or girls doesn't matter, but sons or daughters-in-law. I've come across a couple in recent times where their entitlement, their expectation of what they're getting out of the whole deal is leaves me a little disturbed. That they're new in the family, and they really do feel that the world owes them a living, and which is always very disappointing, because that's where it's hardest to fix the communication and the conflict, certainly the potential conflict problems. But yeah, they're the C's: communication, conflict, and confidence.
The 3 C's. And this is not a criticism of people. And I think, it's a generalization, and I'm certainly no psychologist or counsellor, but I think that, typically the mums and dads, that generation these days, may not have had a lot of communication coming down from their parents due to that generational, that just the way it was in that generation. Yeah. And that causes them challenges in being able to do that themselves. So it's just a way of life. It's not a criticism. Hopefully these things will change generation to generation, and people will be more comfortable talking about this sort of thing.
Yeah, you're being very diplomatic there, but you're absolutely right. The older generation, people even older than me, they really struggle because their parents never talked about this sort of stuff with them, and it's very hard for people in their 60s and above to have these conversations, because just wasn't stuff that you talked about. And I think it all goes back, Juanita, to gratitude. Back in the day, I think, and while things were very different too, and I don't agree with how it used to be. I mean, the boy got the farm and the girl got to whistle Dixie and hope she married. They would say, like, your role, daughter, is to go off and find some other farmer whose family are going to look after him, and you need to marry well. That doesn't cut it so much these days, but that's the way it was. The boys got the farm and the girls didn't. But nowadays that's changing very much. The younger generation are busting to have the conversations. They're used to communication, albeit through iPhones and social media and so on.
Digital communication.
Yeah, that's right. They're probably wanting to text Dad and say, "Hey, Dad, what are your thoughts?"
But I think here, Mark, is probably plug for yourself. Is this is where you really come into the fore with what you can assist with, because that's your specialty, and you've seen and been involved in so many of these conversations. You can really help with that specific barrier in this process.
Yeah, look, without blowing my own trumpet, yes, absolutely, and so I do keep saying this: families can't fix this from within, and I don't say that to push my own barrow, but it's just a fact. You can't get mum, dad, and the kids to sit around a table and solve these issues. For 100 times we've probably told this story, but the quiet ones in the family will just sit there quietly. The loud ones might speak up, but mostly they sit there and they respect mum and dad, so they don't sort of rock the boat. They don't say what they really want to say, and they walk out of the meeting swearing and cursing and upset and angry because they didn't get what they wanted. But the reason it didn't happen is because they didn't speak up. But also, for all those reasons, that's why you can't fix it from within the family. You need someone like me who can come in and chat with everyone. And I chat with people confidentially, so that, if I talk to the 3, 4, 5 kids, whatever, each one of them knows that they can be frank with me. They can talk about their siblings, spouses, their mum and dad. They can tell me, warts and all, what's going on. And I then become the one that can kind of stir that all up in my mind and come out with a solution, which I can just go back to mum and dad without breaking confidences and say, hey, look, if you do it this way, we're going to get this across the line, and everyone's going to be okay. But the communication between the families, the kids want to, but they think that if they start the conversation, they'll be seen as being entitled or having expectations.
Yeah.
Although that doesn't seem to stop some of the daughters and sons-in-law, but the actual kids themselves are more sort of well-mannered and grateful, I think, for whatever they get. Mostly.
And I that probably, we've touched on a few comments there that probably leads to another reason why the succession planning might hit a hurdle, and that's because we say parents because generally we're talking about parents with children, be they young children or adult children, etc. But the parents may find it difficult to work out for themselves what's fair. And, we often say, you've had to say very much, fair doesn't necessarily mean equal. The classic rural situation is where you've had one child, whether it be the son or the daughter, we're not, as he said, it's be any these days, has stayed on the farm. You might have one child that stayed on the farm, has worked a lot on the farm, put a lot of assistance in for minimal wage, maybe with some benefits such as accommodation or fuel or something like that, been on the farm for years. You may have another child who's gone to uni. Good on them. They've gone to uni, they've got an education, they're working elsewhere. They may think they might want to come back at some stage, but they might not, don't really know yet. You might have another child that's not interested in staying at home on the farm at all. They're gone. They're doing their thing. So a lot of people really find that challenging, and as they should, because it is challenging, how they divide their estate between those three children, all with different ambitions and different desires. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what does that mean for the division of the estate? And that is a huge challenge that we see a lot of our clients facing.
Yeah, look, I had some really pleasant conversations this week, actually, or within the last week, with some new clients and their children. And in both cases, there was one on the farm and two off the farm. And the kids that were off the farm, it was just so pleasant, because I don't get this all the time. The kids off the farm just had no entitlement, no expectation. In both cases, their parents had spoken to them previously about what we were going to go through and so on. And all the kids just turned up with manners and gratitude. And it was great, because they didn't have an expectation. They didn't want their brother to have to leave the farm and sell it up so that they could get some money out of mum and dad's estate. And in fairness, all the other siblings had got on with their lives and were doing quite well, and were happy and content and financially secure in their own lives. So they didn't need a whole lot of money. But in all cases, the parents were still leaving them, a significant amount of money. But there wasn't any bitterness or resentment or expectation, entitlement, and so they were all nice gratitude conversations, so to speak. And because it's hard for parents to come up with what's fair, you don't have to be. We've said this a million times. Fair doesn't mean equal, and sometimes fair is like way out of kilter. It might be 80% one way and 20% the other way, or 60-20-20 or something like that, which is very different. But I keep saying to people, when you're trying to have a conversation around fair versus equal, giving someone $1 million and giving another brother a $5 million property are two absolutely different things. I mean, $1 million cash is like whoopee. You've got cash. You go do what you want with $1 million cash. A $5 million property means you haven't got any cash. It means you've got the opportunity to work your backside off for the next 20 years to cut a living out of that. And over those years, you're going to have to go through droughts, floods, stock prices up and down, and so on. So, I actually say sometimes to the other siblings off farm, I say, I think you've got the better deal, because cash sometimes can be, sometimes a better option than necessarily giving someone real estate or a farm. But it depends what they want to do too.
That's right. And, it's definitely another topic, probably to assure the people that are listening that if you are facing those sort of challenges that we've just spoken about, there are solutions and there are ways you can deal with it. All is not lost. That's where we can help. So that's another topic, which, and I think we've discussed that before, but that, for the topic of today's discussion, that is one of the most common hurdles or challenges we see to succession planning. And there are solutions and ways to get through that challenge to a result that's amicable and satisfactory to everybody.
Yeah. Look, if I may just push it a little bit further, Juanita, I know it's a little off topic, but, things like where there's a really strong desire that the farm stays in the family, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. If you don't have many off-farm assets and all your money's in the farm, but you do want someone to take that on, and there's 3 kids and only 1 farmer, that's just how it's going to be. And the other kids just aren't going to get anything immediate. There may be that you have a child that you want to give a special opportunity to in regard to something absolutely off farm. So what I'm trying to say is there's a million reasons why you can be splitting your estate up in ways that outside mightn't look fair, but you have very valid reasons as to why you want to do it in a certain way. And sometimes, if there's no off-farm assets and so on, it may involve that you have to defer benefits for other beneficiaries, and they might have to wait for a certain period of time before they get theirs if you are to pass away early. Anyway, you go on. We have got other things to talk about.
I'll keep going on my list. I suppose to round those sort of type of topics out, the third thing that jumped in my mind. So we've spoken about communication challenges, about difficulty in fair and equal, and the split. A third thing is most people just think it's just all too hard. With life these days, you're so busy. This is not top of the list of fun things I'd like to do in my spare time. There's a million other things. It is for me, but maybe not for everybody else. But it's just hard. It's just people think it's too hard. But as we've said before, making a start is the key thing. The mental release that you get from just making a start, however small that is, taking the first step, reaching out to get some help from advisors to help you along that path, will just break the ice and then help get things moving. But if that's your barrier, it's too hard. My recommendation to you is just make a start, reach out, get some help, take the first step.
Yeah, and actually, what we do, both of us, Juanita, is we're a delegation to people where it's all too hard. What that really means is you don't know what the answer. When someone says this is too hard, what they're really saying is, I don't know the answers, so I don't know where to start, how to do it, and all that sort of stuff. And like if I needed a root canal in my teeth and had to do it myself, I'd be in exactly the same boat. But I know better, and I know to go to a dentist and who specialises in that, and let them, I have confidence in their capability to be able to fix my tooth up. And this is really the same. If you're sitting there and you're going, I know I need to do something, but I don't know where to start, that's why you call people like us to start the conversation, because we know the questions to ask, and we can help you with strategies which are going to be appropriate specifically for yourself. So, when it's in the too hard basket, it just means you don't know the answers, but, hopefully we do.
Absolutely. And the fourth item on my list before I hand over to you, Mark, is as far as things that can go wrong in succession planning, more so than challenges or hurdles perhaps, is not getting the right advice, particularly when your family business or your generational assets are set up in different entities. So the way we handle succession planning for a company is different to a trust, is different to a partnership, is different to assets that are in your own name. So it's really important to make sure that the control and ownership, etc., of your assets and your entities are carried out how you wish them to be as far as your succession plan is, to get the right advice. So in summary, one of the things that can go wrong is not getting the right advice, and therefore, because you've got assets held in a different way, the succession plan you thought was in place doesn't get put in place.
Yeah. Look, absolutely. And, we've been through over the last couple of sessions we've run, there's just so many things to think about. And once again, it comes back to specialisation. General practitioners, whether they're legal advisors or your accountants or whatever, you can't know all the answers. Like and I hope no one's got a brain tumour out there, but I use the analogy all the time. If you have a brain tumour, you go to a specialist who knows that's all they do. They eat, sleep and breathe, fixing things such as that. And really that's what we're doing. And we've got hundreds of checklists and scorecards and the right questions to ask people, so that if they're wondering what to do, then hopefully we'll be able to ask the right questions to help them achieve their ideal outcomes. And certainly it's not a simple matter. And I mean, I like to keep it simple for clients and not make it too confusing by taking away the complexity and handling that ourselves. And things like the due diligence report that you guys do, Juanita, is really makes a huge difference for being able to go in and actually find what isn't working, what is working, and what isn't working in regard to their current documentation and so on. We've talked before about some things don't pass through wills. We've talked before about joint tenancy versus tenants in common and trusts and superannuation and all those sorts of things. So, so if you're confused, I guess that's why you give us a call and see if we can help you through those sorts of things. But yeah, certainly different entities. It can be a minefield, and you just need to know who to talk to.
Yeah, and probably just to give you a practical example for those listening, what I exactly mean is you might intend the rural assets to go to son A, and you pass away, and son B is your executor. Now, if you haven't, you find out later that all those assets are in a trust, well, the executor will. So the son that controls the will, or in the will controls the trust, is the one who controls those assets. So they may not end up going to son B, who you wanted them to. So that is just a really simple example of what can very easily go wrong without that being addressed appropriately in your lifetime as well as in your will.
Yeah. We do okay, Juanita, because sometimes we start these sessions and we've only written 2 or 3 things down on a piece of paper about what we're going to talk about.
We prepare copiously.
Well, I do. Anyway, we're up to 20 minutes, and I still haven't gone through any of my list yet.
Yeah.
And it's, we seem to, I guess, hopefully that means we know what we're talking about.
So we do. We love it, and we know it, and we love it, and it's all up here. That's why we can talk for ages about this stuff.
No, that's right. Look, one of the things, the topic today is primary issues facing succession planning, and a lot of the tools, the quizzes that we use, the scorecards and so on that I use for the clients that are part of our process or before they join our rural succession solutions process and so on, is trying to work out and be really clear so that I understand what are the key things that really trip people up in these areas. What is it that because if I'm talking about, we can help blah, blah, and blah, and that's of no interest to anyone, well, I need to know what are the real issues. And I'm just going to come through some stats, if I may, and I'll be interested in your feedback in these. Thanks, Juanita. When I asked people for a single answer and said, okay, what is the one issue that is the greatest issue for you in regard to getting all this sort of stuff sorted, the primary one that came up was procrastination and the unknowns. In other words, they're running around in circles. They know they need to do something, but they don't know how to start, what to do, and how to get going. So I'll just go through all 4, then we might just chat about them for a sec. Second one, obviously, is communication issues and communication and the lack of conversation between mum, dad, and the kids, and so on. Third one is protecting the assets against failed marriages, bankruptcy, early death of children, and all those sorts of things. Assets. The line that seems to resonate with most people is, how would you like your son's wife's next husband to end up with half your farm? That tends to get their attention. That's not something that's in their plans. So protecting the assets for the bloodline is a very important thing. And fourth, and these actually all scored very close, but they were the 4 leading ones. Conflict within the family is the 4th one. I'm actually surprised that's not higher because, most 90% or more of clients we deal with, family conflict is a very, it goes from a big issue to a very big issue in a whole lot of families. So what are your thoughts in regard to those 4?
So are these the reasons why people don't want to get their things
why
done?
they haven't done anything. Why they haven't started yet.
Yeah, well, number 3 seems strange to me because we sort of touched on similar thoughts with respect to the others, but the asset protection one, I would have thought is more of a prompt or an instigator to get something done, because that's certainly it's a very common concern we see when we speak to a client and have a chat about what their thoughts and concerns and issues and what keeps them up at night, and those sort of things that you mentioned, Mark, the asset protection and the the fears of bankruptcy and relationship breakdowns with their children, etc., is usually a red hot reason to get something put in place.
But the point here is they don't know how to fix it. So this is people are sitting there and they're going, we don't know how. This is before they realise they need to come and see us. It's kind of like, what are the issues that are causing them sleepless nights, I guess.
yeah, well, we can help. That's, that's, I guess that's the answer. So yes. So we can, your professional advisors can put in place succession and estate planning strategies that address those things. So it's not something we can cover in detail here, but there are certainly strategies that you can put in place and implement, which should be able to minimize your concerns if you are particularly worried about one of those things. So it's a great reason to get the appropriate advice.
Okay, I've just got 4 more categories to go here through here. These will be a little bit quicker. One of the questions we ask is, how much help have you left the family for after you die? In other words, how many notes have you left behind? What sort of instructions have you left behind? Have you written letters, given them a list of things they need to do, who they need to talk to, who to trust, who to avoid, all those sort of things? And I'm going to use a technical term here, but 70% of people said bugger all.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah. And that's where
I think the other 30% are mostly fibbing anyway.
And that's where you've got a lot of tools that you can utilize, Mark, to assist with that process. So what we don't want is people rewriting wills and gifts, etc. But what we're talking about here for our listeners is more about who the executors and family members should get help from after you pass away, who to trust, who not to trust. We've spoken in different sessions about the intangible things, so like assistance with planning the funeral arrangements, etc. And Mark, you've spoken about that before at length. So those sort of things here, absolutely.
Yeah, not the technical stuff. We're not trying to rewrite wills. No.
Okay.
The next one was how long? And now remember, these are people who are now working with me, and mostly you guys as well. So, how long since you've reviewed your wills and estate documents? 60%. It was over 5 years. So that's a telling statistic. The next one was how many people acknowledged they needed specialist help. Was half the people realised they needed. This actually is not as high as I would have hoped or thought it was, but 45% realise they need specialist help. 25% think their existing advisors can fix everything, and sadly, 20% said they could do it themselves. So I was kind of a little surprised with those statistics. But anyway, that's what it was.
Yeah, that 20% concerns me. So no.
So look, do it yourself, fine, but have a chat to us first, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And I think the whole reluctance here is probably cost and maybe too hard. But by George, if you do this stuff yourself, we've said time and time again, we can see saving a little bit of money, or a small amount of money, or proportionately, can end up in an absolute disaster, emotionally and financially, if things don't go right and we're off to court.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, with just a couple of minutes to go, I asked them right now, and I gave them a whole list of issues. And I said, right now, choose as many as apply to you. So this all adds up to more than 100%, but these are the statistics. Time, cost, and complexity of getting this fixed was 45% of people were concerned about how long it was going to take, how much it was going to cost, and how confusing and complex the whole process was going to be. That was 45%. Procrastination, where to start, who to talk with, was 47%. This is going up. People realizing they didn't know any, you don't know what you don't know, the unawares, the unknowns. 55% of people, that was an issue for them. They didn't know what they needed to fix. Communication and conflict was 57%, struggling with communication issues and conflict issues, and 60% were worried about asset protection.
Okay, interesting. I would probably say in the last couple of seconds we've got the first one, worrying about time, cost, and process. There is absolutely no reason why your solicitor can't give you that upfront. So if that's what you're concerned about, first consultation you have with them, you should be able to get clarity out of what is the process from here and the steps, what is the fee, or at least estimated fee, and how long will it take? That's a no-brainer. If your advisor can't give you that, then there is an issue.
Yeah, and the reality is, our process is all about creating simplicity for people. I mean, as you know, we talk about a 90-day process with clients. We have a set fee which we disclose to everyone, and my take is that we make it as simple as we can for the client. Clients only need 3 or 4 hours with me in total in the whole process. The rest of the time, you're off doing stuff, I'm off doing stuff, our office is doing things. So we're trying to make it simple for the clients and take their complexity and create simplicity for ourselves. So, yeah. But look, our time's up. Anything else you want to finish with in regard to our topic today, the primary issues facing succession planning?
No, we've covered a lot. I think the message is, if any of these are for you, if any of these challenges you're feeling, just make a start, get some help. They're not insurmountable.
Yep. And Juanita, thanks. You're Murdoch Lawyers in Brisbane. If you've got some questions you'd like to ask Juanita, ask her. Hopefully you'll track me down somewhere if you're watching this, and look forward to catching up again in another couple of weeks. Juanita, thank you. Another interesting topic and very well handled. So thanks again for today.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe for those in lockdown.
That's right. And hope we're out of them soon.
Yeah.